You're now listening to From the Jump.
Welcome to From the Jump, your source for all things hip-hop. I'm Syllable. This is my co-host,
Mr. White.
And we're here to talk about King Disease Part Deuce. That's King Disease Part 2. Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment below saying, I subscribed, and we'll try our best to reply to your comment. Nas is the undisputed, well actually pretty disputed king of New York.
Also talk about his impact on the culture. Nas has been someone who didn't just rap because it was cool or to get money or to get checks. He's somebody that's doing it for a higher purpose. And that's something I think we want to touch on today. First part of King's Disease got a Grammy. So this is definitely a highly anticipated project.
Well, so the fact is, a lot of people get into rap for different reasons. Some people get into hip hop because they just grew up with it and they listen to it for a long time. Some people get into hip hop because some shit happened to them and they coping, and hip hop is how you cope with that. Music has often been very therapeutic. And the fact is that a lot of folks post 2010 have been getting into music for reasons more about like as a business move, as a venture to try to make ends and make capital. Nothing wrong with collecting racks and stacking units, but at this point we want to address the actual cultural impact that Nas has had, because as Mr. White and I were talking about this earlier today and yesterday, the fact is Nas was never doing this just to be flashy. He was doing this to be a dope artist, and all of that comes with being a dope artist. With that's lyricism, that's talking about storytelling, that's being real on the mic, that's talking about the shit that you've gone through, what you've learned in that process. And in King's Disease 2, we hear Nas the teacher come out. He's talking about what he's learned through his experiences.
Yeah, and through those experiences, he's able to continue to do what he's always done, which is tell great stories. One of the big knocks that he had in the past was that his production wasn't as great as his flow, but he was still able to make such a prolific career, even if those beats were considered subpar, and get to this point now where if you listen to King's Disease 2 with Hit Boy all throughout, it's no slouching on the production side. I mean, that's definitely A1. And Nas is definitely bringing some classic bars throughout the project and continuing to say, look, you don't have to be this flashy type of rapper. You could just tell your story. And that's more important than trying to make up a story. And I think that that's something that artists are starting to lose more and more nowadays. They're really following the trends and they're not being themselves. We talked about this in a previous episode where your fan base can tell if you're not being real. This is a man, right, who has basically created an image that was from the streets, but also somebody who was trying to grow and evolve. And you hear that on each one of these songs where he's like, this is who I was, this is where I want to be. But he's also showing that there's not always as much of a difference as you think, right? It's like you could be on that level of Nas if you want to be on that level. Even if you're from the bottom, you can get to where he is if you believe in yourself and you want to put in the effort to be a better person.
Yeah, and I like that shit, because I think what this is exampling is that Nas is not just saying, hey, I'm all this, I'm all that. He's talking about the journey and what to focus on instead. And one of the bars that I really like in The Pressure on that track, he says, I invest in education because we wasn't privy. We got busy, but scholarship programs throughout the city. I mean, the fact that he's talking about the work that he did to help upraise the youth, but he's doing it also in a braggadocio way and saying, you know what you guys focus on, this is what I've done. And that's legacy. That's legacy shit. That's leading generations and generations. Now, Nas, his flow is very unique. A lot of folks are saying that are from Nas's generation, man, shit sounds the same so much, right? I don't even like it on the radio. Well, Nas carved out his own unique Nas niche. Now, in King's Disease, as well as King Disease 2, I would say more King Disease 2, Nas doesn't have his characteristic Nas flow in as many places. A lot of the times when Nas raps, he'll carry the end punchline for a bar. A bar is 4 beats for those that aren't into hip hop. And in the 4th beat, that's when the line comes from the end rhyme. So he'll often carry that to the 1st and the 2nd beat. Here we're seeing Nas not do that. Now, at the same time, he still's got Nas style. He doesn't sound like he's trying to do trap rap, you know, or Playboy Cardi rap, right? But at the same time, you feel a difference.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing something that is unique for him, but he's not going all the way left. He's not trying to be a speed rapper. He's not trying to really do anything except try to communicate to the new generation, right? And that's important because most people are going to listen to an artist like Nas and say, oh, he's old school.
Yeah.
But if you're really a fan of hip hop and you like lyricism, you like content, you like detail, this is what Nas always has brought to the table. And it's one of the things that he's rarely matched by any artist that's out there. Maybe a Mortal Technique or something like that. But we're talking about Billboard Hot 100 artists. Who else can you name that's really bringing that much knowledge to the table and has been doing it as long as him? It's very important to highlight the fact that he's been doing this since the beginning. His first album was considered a classic because he was talking about the struggle and trying to overcome that struggle already. As a young person, he already had a vision that's probably a million times greater than a lot of people in those types of situations. And for him to be at this point and still have the passion to go out there and deliver this type of project, it's just amazing.
I would agree, because a lot of people don't have that longevity. You look back at rappers like Warren G, at MC Hammer. You look at rappers from earlier eras, they don't have that longevity. And the fact is Nas has kept killing it. And because the fact is that I think a lot of it comes from his thrive to survive and the fact that he had that vision. When you come from the streets, when you have that background, just like Nipsey Hussle did, you have that desire to see something greater for not just yourself, but for the generation you're growing up in, as well as younger generations after you. You say, you know what, I've made it out, but there are plenty of folks that actually don't. They're never going to make it out. So what can I do to serve them? And there's a lot of powerful tracks. And Nas definitely fucks with the formula. We got the Bible. When that track comes out, it's straight, no hook, 3 verses on this album, and he's able to get away with it because he's Nas and he's delivering a message. This is like his PSA from the podium as the teacher, as Nas coming through as the king, say, hey, this is my decree as King Nas. And that track Nobody with Lauryn Hill talks about taking it blow for blow and turning the other cheek and all the stuff she's had to survive. And it's incredible, her verse on there when she's coming through and she ain't pulling no punches. And she's obviously been through a lot. And you suddenly start to get it. When you hear Lauryn Hill, you're like, okay, now this all makes sense on what's going on with this album. Now, at the same time, as much as King Disease 2 is a great work of art and it's amazing, I would definitely have to agree with Mr. White's conversation we had last night. And King Disease, the first one, that's a stronger album. The way that it sounds, the way that it's put together, it sounds more cohesive. This is dope and it's amazing. And you can't light a candle to Nas. But at the same time, when you have features from Don Toliver, the way that flows together, for whatever reason, it hits you immediately.
Yeah, he's bringing in people like Big Sean, Anderson .Paak. He has other people that are really kind of bringing it together in terms of his intros and outros. He used a sample from Belly Movie, that's obviously very famous at this point with him and DMX, rest in peace. And think about how much impact he's had, and the reason why we have to give him his flowers now, right? This is a conversation that they always talk about. Don't wait until someone's passed away to say how great they were. Yeah. He impacted me from a very early age. I was influenced by Nas. His first 3 projects got me through tough times when I was living in a condemned home with cold floors, poor insulation, and mice in the walls, roaches, all of the stuff that I was dealing with being in the ghetto. And then now I'm not dealing with that same type of stuff, but it was because I was hearing somebody with the right messaging in my life. You know, my father passed away very early. So someone like Nas was already a father figure to me. And that's how much hip hop means to me. It was my father in that sense. It was the place that I went to overcome things. And I'm glad that Nas is still here delivering the type of messaging that he's delivering. With the King's Disease project, I was going through some tough times in my life. And listening to that project, I even came up with a line saying that I deserve better. I can't let people treat me however. And that's pretty much why I felt like that project was stronger, because it made me say, I'm going to move on and I'm going to get what I deserve. And that is exactly what Nas is always preaching. And he's very poetic, and it is art. If you don't consider hip hop art, just listen to a Nas project.
And it's not just a work of art, it's a social movement in the sense that music should move people. And Mr. White went through a lot of shit trying to figure that out. And when music can be that guiding light, when music can come in and influence you and how you are, that's what it's supposed to do. It's more than just, it's bigger than hip hop. It's bigger than just club music. And for me, when I was first listening to Nas, I was a young kid. I was working in dead-end jobs. I wasn't making that much money, but I was going to a street cypher every single Tuesday, freestyling, getting my chops up. And when I first started listening to Nas Heavy was during that period of time, introduced to Illmatic. And later on, we come up with Stillmatic. Nas is throwing out shots to Jay-Z without pulling punches at all, talking about how you was calling me. I didn't even give you my number, and just all these shots that were fired in that segment of Ether. Eminem murdered you on your own shit. Talk about Renegade with Jay-Z. And at that point in time, you have to look at the journey that Nas has been on and the fact that he never really left the streets, while at the same time he's invested in crypto and Bitcoin. He's invested in his own intellectual property rights and making so much money. And he's hustling in a different way. And that journey of overcoming obstacles, getting out of the hood and becoming better while still respecting that journey. Not acting like you better because you escaped the hood, but understanding those lessons that taught. That's the essence of Nas. I'm obviously always glad to talk about Nas as an artist. I'm glad that he's still here. And I hope that he's going to continue to make projects that are going to have a great impact on the culture. I think Joe Budden was talking about this is how you do it.
It's 2021 and Nas, the guy who we said can't pick a beat, the guy who we thought was over when Ether came out, was over. We counted him out time and time again. Not we, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
the internet.
He is the person. I see the consistent point that you're making.
Yes.
I see what you're doing. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
He is the person, almost like Jadakiss going first with the freestyle. I know you got your whole catalog. Cool. Y'all do what you're doing. Nas is almost taking the baton at the top of at the mid 2021 and saying, yo, this is what it looks like, y'all. Not the drill, not for the drill niggas, not for the young niggas, not for the killer niggas, but for the people that understand this. Hey, here, this is what it's supposed to sound like.
You're a legacy actor or somebody that's been in the game for this long. This is the blueprint for how to stay on in the game, relevant, bringing music that's going to keep people listening, putting their ears to it and saying, I think I could be like Nas. And everybody should strive to be someone that can overcome as many obstacles as he did and still be someone that is humble in a lot of ways. He talked about that on the first King Disease, where he's saying a lot of people don't know that Michael Jordan gives back because he doesn't talk about it. Like LeBron is a very publicized person for giving back. But Nas is saying, hey, you don't know what I'm out here doing in the background, behind the scenes. I've always been involved and I'm going to stay involved. And that's the message.
So many dope lines in King's Disease too. One of the ones that I love is he talks about, who knew I grew to build an empire? Streets had me against the ropes. Who would have thought I was ziplining? It's just, I mean, bar for bar.
Bars.
When you look at this stuff, this is it's lyricism. It's making those punchlines, but it's biographical punchlines. It's using his life as a metaphor to learn from. And I gotta hold my lighter up in the air and respect that shit, because it's always inspiring. After listening to King's Disease and King Disease 2, now I'm in a Nas frame of mind. Now, a New York state of mind. Now, everything that I'm thinking about comes out as Nas lyrics, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to get to work, get back in the lab. And so, listen, I hope you've enjoyed this reaction to Nas King Disease 2. What did you think about the album? What were your favorite tracks? Feel free to like and subscribe below, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of From the Jump.
Peace.